technician. I'll be your guiding light in your darkest hour. I'm gonna change your life. I'm like a poison flower. Give it up, do as I say. Give it up and let me have my way. I'll give you love, I heat you like a truck. I'll give you love, I'll teach you how to. Just close your eyes.
Erotic, erotic, put your hands all over my body. Erotic, erotic, put your hands all over my body. Erotic, erotic, put your hands all over my body. All over me.
Draw the cat eyes sharp enough to kill a man. You did some bad things, but I'm the worst of them. Sometimes I wonder which one will be your last lie. They say looks can kill, and I'm like, try. I don't dress for women.
Never be the same.
I don't dress for men. Well, he was doing lines.
I'm a love technician. I'll give it up, give it up, give it up, give it up,
Would you like to know more?
Why, hello, peasantry and worker underclass. It is I, Captain Slappy, in our next version of whatever operation you get to claim. Because this one is going to be impacting your, well, it would be your local, county, and state law enforcement. Now, as you know, I've never cared for the magic of sob-sittery with your Alex KGB Jones and others that were paid by foreign governments to engage in highly illegal federal and state RICO violations. But it is what it is. I've went through quite the list over the years, but now we're into the mutated potato version of the SobSit stuff, which is your frauditors and the anti-frauditors, both being the same exact thing, both promoting criminal activity for pay across state and international lines. Again, ad hoc corporation, it's classic RICO, qualifies for it. Now, people like Chilito Castro, and others obviously target other state law enforcement from where they live. So they travel to go target law enforcement at the behest of others for pay. Bingo, obviously against the law. Okay? Extreme it's a not really extreme. It'd be the classic example of RICO. Why RICO was designed. Okay? Now, before RICO, everybody with a brain knew this shit occurred, at least in your intelligence agencies and your domestic agencies. However, it would seem as if your local and state law enforcement may not be as well versed. Okay? Because the stated intent of the frauditors and the SobSits is to, at this point, revamp operations to impede and obstruct local law enforcement in a different area, or at times in their own resident area, inhabitant area, but with external foreign funding. Foreign meaning out of state and also internationally. Since I would never have access to their accounting, and since they are obviously making enough money to keep doing it for a living, and since so many, the vast majority of them, are already common criminals, felons, etc., one would assume, if you had a brain at any rate, that the Russians and Chinese are involved in this. I'm not going to discount Mossad or Israel, obviously, or Great Britain for that matter. I'm just stating. What we do know is the Russians, for sure. Okay? And we know they do love it. And we do know our friends at the CCP-CIS, Chinese Intelligence Services, are doing real-world, on-the-ground operations in Oklahoma. Do you really fucking think that they would bypass something as easily infiltrated and manipulated as frauditors and anti-frauditors? Remember, the anti-frauditors, for the vast majority, are only in it for the money and to promote criminal activities of other people, though they won't see it like that. Or some do if they know what they're doing. It doesn't matter. It is still the promotion of interstate commercial criminal activities that are not protected by law. Okay? So, my assumption is, at least in some small part, NSA and FBI are, and probably Cyber Command, are at least mildly monitoring these groups. Okay? On the other part, I'm assuming that they do not have the manpower to do anything about it. So that dumps it back onto YouTube. Now, as we know, all issues and arguments and all irrelevant lawsuits in between these groups are just that, irrelevant. Just like the players are irrelevant. They are emitters and repeating nodes for an obvious active measures campaign, propaganda. Okay, both sides. So, if we know the vast majority of the anti-frauditors are illegally promoting criminal activity for pay, and we know the frauditors are doing the same, it would behoove YouTube to have a discussion with federal intelligence agencies about that exactly. Again, you have to go back. Luke the Kook Radowski, paid by Russians. We knew that. We saw that. We proved that. Alex KGB Jones, for at least a decade. David Duke, we know. He ran away from here to his friends in Moscow. And there's tons of others. Okay? Now, again, I'm working under the assumption that at least state and federal law enforcement are aware in some capacity, and so are monitoring. So I would say it's time for the revenue generating part of it to go ahead and collapse these networks out. With someone like Cholito, a couple years in a federal pen. Maybe learn him something. He's a common criminal already, so he knows the taste of jail. Some of the others don't know. I've been not in the rabbit hole, but you can definitely tell that this stinks of foreign operations. Because on both sides, neither side's no law. They don't give a shit about you or your local law enforcement. Or they don't care. They care about making money, and they care about promoting criminal activity. And as we know, this is why I have to point this out, my on-the-ground operations accomplish real-world objectives. These operations do not. They are intended to make money first and get zero results. That's why anti-frauditors accomplish nothing, just like frauditors. All right, it's empty calories. Maybe good for propaganda or somebody else's active measures that are funded, but in the real world it accomplishes nothing except that beautiful little section of operations which is only meant to destabilize. That's all that does on both sides. Okay, now again, anyone with a brain that's ever seen operations or knows what the fuck is going on or was kin to or knew anyone that did this shit knows that this, you can obviously see that. It's got it written all over it. All right. You have some of them that are domestic informants, I'm sure. But I have a feeling that this shifted into what it was because of heavy foreign influence and money. I'm seeing a ton of sock puppets and bots. Again, these people don't accomplish anything. They don't actually care about anything as far as the law goes. They do only want to promote their own stuff inside their own criminal networks for money. That's it. All right, that's as far as their brain power goes. They are the Elon Musks, or pick someone, J.P. Morgan of each other. It's just moron on moron violence, and who am I to bitch about that? That's hilarious because both sides are morons. But it's super important to denote that in this era, they're only slightly better than someone like Alex Jones, all right, or I don't care. Pick one of the others. Because they emit so much content, it's pissing in an ocean of piss. So it's meant to wash out anybody actually going after them. Now, you'll notice they file what amounts to fraudulent lawsuits on each other and on other people and on YouTube. Well, it's just cash grabs. They don't give a fuck about freedom. They don't give a fuck about law. They give a fuck about money. Monkey see, monkey do. That's basic criminality. Think of them as small, retarded children that sees one monkey get a banana really easily. And so that monkey says, well, I can get 2 bananas. And then, another retarded monkey 2 states away says, I heard a story about a guy that got 2 bananas. I'm going up that tree and I'm getting 1,500 bananas. And so your criminal network begins. All right? That's how hard that works. If there is the possibility of money, there is criminal activity. That's easy. Done. Not hard. So we might, turn some of the IRS people in this direction because there's obviously fucking money flowing. Thousands of dollars verified even just on my very top level cursory skim. Thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to people that don't accomplish anything. The back half of that is not knowing where that money's coming from and who it's coming from. Because that's the greatness of online funded money laundering operations through sock puppet accounts, super chats, all this other shit, right? Okay, so let's attempt to remember that as much fun as it is, they are on your turf YouTube. And as far as I'm concerned, and I've kind of already proven it really simply, they are engaged in definite criminal activity, a shitload of it, across state lines, across international lines. Okay? And it's commercial in nature. It is first and foremost commercial in nature. It is definitely not for the purposes of helping or education. None, zero. Now, I am not the king of defining what that is, but I guarantee you, if I walked into a room with a couple of FBI, CIA, NSA people and said, hey, Guess what I've got? And it ties into the CCPCIS operation I did that was on the ground. And I showed it logically out as I have done. They would say, that's foreign operation written all over it. Not originating, but infiltration, influence, and manipulation. Now, these people are literal who's. They shouldn't have any audiences. They shouldn't be making any money. Yet they are. So, let's assume some of them are controlled opposition, which would make sense. Now, I'm going to point out that I'm not going to discuss any of that because that would make sense for domestic intelligence operations. Wouldn't it, domestic Leo? The end result of these people on both sides, whether they want to or not, whether they intend to or not, is the disruption of what? Super simple. Your local and state law enforcement agency, and also your courts. I mean, it's just a given. Okay? Every one of the frauditors I go through are just fake civil rights lawsuits. That's it, for cash. Boom. That's the only reason they're doing it. Plus, ongoing funding externally out of state. That's it. It's super simple. All automatically qualifies for RICO, state and federal both. Okay? Now, let's move into the anti-frauditors. Again, let me go ahead and point out, first and foremost, they make sure to promote the other channel in a, quote, rebuttal, unquote, which you already know. If they know it's a criminal act that the other party is involved in, and they promote it for pay, that is a criminal act. Now, you have to be pretty fucking stupid not to know that. Alright? So my assumption is some of them just don't know it, or most don't give a shit, especially if they're already felons, and it's easy fucking money. Now, we knew what Luke Rudowski and these others were doing was obviously illegal, and yet somehow they skated through. I have a feeling we know what happened with them. Alright? But on the other hand, this is a burgeoning industry that needs to be regulated for company revenue, in my opinion. So, as far as the state of Oklahoma goes, they definitely need to watch out for this. And I'm going to gear up to talk to someone in that area with the state in these regards, to keep an eye out for this type of stuff. Because the point, whether these people, I mean, they're useful idiots. I mean, they're both useful and morons. Absolute fucking morons. Whether their intent is to make it spread, it does spread. And the original intent of the foreign influence is to definitely get it to spread. That's the point. Or it's a bonus, if you want to say it, but it's definitely one of the strong points that you would say, well, also we need it to spread. Correct? Correct. So, by accident, these individuals, or as I like to call them, retards, are doing internal security work fairly cheaply as theorists and experimentalists on social engineering. That doesn't mean I have to like any of them, and it doesn't mean any of them should not go to prison, okay, or at least jail for a while, and have all the shit seized. Money, house, don't care. I don't care. Play the game, win the prize, and lose. I mean, you're working the casino table, and the casino has decided it's time to work you. You've had a good run. Right? Okay. So, as far as the federal agencies go, I'm assuming they got one or two people actively looking at this stuff. All right, it would make sense. It's common sense. I'm assuming that this started. It appears 2016, 2017 for the KGB push, right? And it just so happens to be the old Waco bullshit. It just so happened that's where it's always. When one operation collapses, another begins. All right? In this case, when one commercial network that is extremely fucking stupid, that doesn't understand how the real world works, collapses, the foreign agencies sit back and say, don't worry, there's another dumb motherfucker coming through shortly. Okay? Keep an eye to it, Ivan. Or Ting Tao, keep an eye to it. If you hear any chatter over there, you know where the forums are. Go over there and do your work. Follow them, pump them, dump them. All right? Common sense operations that have been used for centuries, give me a fucking break. And millennia. So, you can see it. It's happening in live time. You can see how slow in the head a lot of these people are. They do not know. To them, operations don't exist. To them, they're on one side, they think, I don't know how they're fighting for my freedom by stopping law enforcement from doing their jobs. Yep, that's freedom right there. And not only that, they're not stopping their own law enforcement, they're making sure to go to your town to do it. Correct? So, might want to try to remember that. Now, if you look at it in the vein of an intelligence agency, it would be, ooh, that's prime fucking behavior modification. Territory is what I was going to say. Ooh, there's some things we wanted to try. Feel free to do it. All right, they're already criminals in a criminal network for criminal activity and criminal money. At any time, should the DOJ or anybody else decide that these people got to go, they're going to go. That's all there is to it. So I have to assume that at least a couple of people domestically are monitoring. I won't go so far as to say that they're actively influencing, say, campaigns or anything. I wouldn't know that. But I do know it's got my fucking attention now. Because there's a lot of fucking money in it all of the sudden. Just so happens to be after 2016, 2017, but it looks like 2015. Now, if any of you guys, or my guys, meaning my subs, you'll remember all the old shit that collapsed out when they're running around begging for money and everything. Right? All those sob sets, all that bullshit. Alright. Put that on the left and put these operations on the right and tell me what's wrong. And you'll see a shitload of fucking money flowing in to the new sob sets. And nobody knows where it's coming from. So attempt to remember that. In the old days, they got wiped out. They got wiped out by law enforcement fairly fucking quick, FBI and everybody. These guys don't seem to appear to be. So that means that there's going to be some foreign influence involved, and there's tracking. Everybody's tracking each other to see what this is doing and where this is going. Now we have to assume a lot of them, like Cholito, is a literal who with no stroke. We know this in the real world. But magically has at least a fake online audience that's quite large. There are others. I saw one, a weird scumbag named Team Skeptic. And I thought, okay, this is following the lines of someone running an operation, because they're all doing the same template, which is start your commercial endeavor, run your commercial endeavor. Anybody that steps in and says, nope, all of this is illegal, what you're doing is illegal, they immediately dox them and shut them down. All right? And attempt to get them wiped out in the real world with employers or anything else. Now, don't forget that the people that are going against these original people, like Team Skeptic or Cholito or one of the other larger ones, are not good people either. at least for the most part. They only do it for the attention. They only do it for the money. If you took the money away, well, some of them would be narcissistic and delusional enough to keep doing it. Obsessive compulsive consumers. I mean, that's all they are. To stay in that lane for a while longer just for the attention. And then after that, probably not for very long, 6 months maybe a year. But anyway, what I meant was you'll see a shitload of criminals, or already pre-prepared coming out of the package criminals off of one of their many prison stints, state or federal, don't know, being involved in these networks at the very least, which is one of the things why they fight so hard on anonymity at the top. Because if you were to go, oh, this motherfucker's just a child molester and he's a drunk, wife beater, the money disappears. It looks too bad. Right? Okay. So, those operations are beginning to get shut down because in the war of docs, it really begins to hurt the larger ones. But the only reason the larger ones are getting hurt is so the smaller ones can capitalize on that commercial empty vacuum. That's it. Just one scumbag leaves and another scumbag comes in the door. Which, in an intelligence view, should make everybody happy. Red vests. Here you go. Put one on. Somebody somewhere will get that joke. That very, very old Montagnard joke that my uncle told me. Anyway, put the red vest on. Here you go. Let me paint the tunnel on the rock, said Wile E. Coyote. And anyway, off we go into the wild blue yonder of horseshit operations. So I'm just wanting to make sure that everybody I'm aware of, that I know, is aware of and knows, which I'm assuming they do, that these operations are in heavy operation. They are commercially clanking on them dozer tracks down the railroad line is what they're doing. And they're gobbling a shitload of resources. And I don't know, feel free to do whatever you want, because most of the information that they're going to get a hold of, they are going to sell or hold for blackmail purposes or whatever. Doesn't matter. These are small timers. These are wannabes. Okay? So that's what they're going to do. So anyway, I know you old timers already get chuckles and laughs out of these fucking morons, because trust me, they're fucking morons. They got no class. They got no art. They have no skill. They're just cranking them off an assembly line, and each one of them is the same as the last one. In one way, it can be considered a Black Mirror episode I'm aware of. Whatever. Doesn't matter. They're chasing the dough, and as potators, they get the hoe. You know what I mean? They're going to get farmed because that's what they're there for, especially if they're knowingly doing criminal activity for pay across state lines. So, another thing is, if you ever wanted to say, oh, my global, devil global wef double blah blah blee blee Bilderberg CFR, who do you think would fund these operations? Private contractors, possibly? Sounds like something with private contractor. Booz Allen, I wonder if they would do that. Raytheon surely wouldn't be involved in this shit. There's a lot of fucking money coming and going through there. Be on their little black item line. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so there you go. Keep an eye out. Keep frosty, because operations is what they is. Alright, so happy Thanksgiving and all that. Try to not get your turkey cooked, if you know what I'm saying. The old gobbler gets going, giblets get fried,